Howdy folks, from Colorado, predominantly white right now. Welcome to part 2 of my series, Gatekeepers, Liars, and Shills, oh my. And before I get started, some good things happened recently. I got together with some folks and we formed a little round table of our own. A couple of the guys are guys that were making flat earth videos way before Mark ever showed up and muddied the waters. And they made really good videos and never asked for any money either. None of them. There was about 10 or 15 people making videos before it caught fire last year. So look for more information on this team forming. We're going to take this flat earth scene back from these liars. Thanks for tuning in.
Well, Vladimir Lenin said the only way to control the opposition is to lead it. I think that there's no doubt that it's part of all major media, military media psyop hoaxes, is they manage the opposition. So that was a controlled leak, just like when they release water from a dam, they don't just blow the dam up and let it flow out. It's released carefully to relieve any kind of tension, pressure, growing opposition. So forgive me, but that is why I'm skeptical about just about anything that comes out.
So let me pitch something to you guys, and we'll go to you first, Mark. Basically, Dylan Avery released Loose Change, and he was the one that released the film, talking about missiles under the plane and really muddying the waters from the start. But where he really seemed to side with people was that now he says that he doesn't think Bush could plan a bowl of cereal, and he says that the conspiracy world is a dark, dangerous world, the world of conspiracy. It is easy to get sucked in and really hard to get back out. And so there's this notion out there now that Avery was right from the start meant to muddy the waters as best as he could, and then once he'd done that job, to then come out and say, no, the 9/11 conspiracy stuff, it's all crazy. Look at me, I was a leading conspiracy theorist. Now I've changed my mind. So anyone who's still in there, they've just been sucked in like I was. You can see where I'm going with this. So there's this idea. There's this idea that whether it's Mark Sargent or Eric Dubai or John LeBon or Jeranism or any of the people, and I don't mean to put myself in your category, but you get what I'm going with here. It could be any of this. There's this idea that someone will get a following and then all of a sudden flip and say, oh no, this was all just an academic experiment to see how gullible conspiracy theorists are. There's this idea that eventually someone's going to flip as part of a long-term game. So I want to know, Mark, if you think that this is possible, that this program's already started, and if you can see this happening, and then we'll go through the round table and get people's opinions.
Okay, it is possible, and that question has been posed to me before, although not in quite that way. I like the way you put it. And that is, look, could it happen? Yes.
Flat Earth's not a cult. You can come and go as you please. You can change your mind as you please. You can come up with new, better information and present it to us. Because, speaking for myself, I want other information to show me what the world is that I'm living in. I welcome it. I won't be ashamed if I prove that we live on a ball. I'll just say, thank you, I was wrong, and, move on with my life. Still do videos on new things that I've discovered if I feel like continuing to do videos. And I always say keep it flat. All right, David Weiss, there's some flat earth stuff that you want to plug, so plug away.
Lots of us spend a lot of time doing all of this. People have been asking if they can make donations, and I don't actively look for donations, and I'm not asking anyone for donations. If anybody wants to donate to anybody, that's their business. Go ahead and do it. But there's lots of people that take this enjoyment and appreciate it, but they're just not willing to give up any money, or maybe they don't have any extra money. That's fine. There's one way that you can help, and it's for another flat earther that's not involved in this show, and it's Jeranism. He does some amazing work. He donates all of his time. I can't imagine how much he puts in, and he has an amazing way that you can donate where it won't cost you a penny. If you just go to his website, click support, and click Amazon. We all buy stuff on Amazon. Just click Amazon on his site, buy your regular stuff, and he gets a commission. It doesn't cost you any more. You're helping the flat earth. He can make more videos. We can wake up the controllers that are suppressing us and live our lives free and have our children have a future. So any way you can help, that's what I'm saying.
That's the way to go. It's not a cult. We're not going to join hands and sing Kumbaya. We're loosely connected, all of us. But We all are interested in the flat Earth, and we all are interested in exploring it and attempting to debunk it if we can. So as long as people are polite with us, of course.
And one more thing, I believe Jaron is going to be on your show, Rob, in 20 minutes. Is that true?
Well, he's supposed to be, and if he's listening, hopefully he can confirm that with me. I sent him a message on Facebook saying, dude, are we still on tonight or not? Yeah, we'll be on in 20 minutes.
And I believe on Sunday I'm going to be on Glowbusters, I think around 2 or so with Jaron. So anyway, thanks to all in the panel, Rob Skiba, Mark Sargent, Jesse Spots, David Weiss, and Ben Matrix Decode.
I said, hey, I'm just going to say it's kind of discouraging to see you guys arguing between each other. You know, I think we should all be joining together.
Did a Rodney King. Can't we all just get along?
Right, can't we just get along? You know, I didn't. That's all I said. Yeah. And in that comment, I think I was the first one to ever mention your name. And just taking... God. I know, my mistake. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of shill talk, shill behavior this, shill behavior that. So I just said, I don't care who's a shill. I said, if Mark Sargent's a shill, so be it. You know, his true colors will show. Well, then they popped in right after and said, hey, we agree with everything you said, except the part where you said we need to wait and see if Mark shows his true colors.
Okay.
That he's already shown them. He is a paid NASA shill. Oh yeah, this is.
Oops. That was weird. As soon as you said that, my shelf almost fell over.
You know, once you watch Flat Earth Clues, it's kind of like trying heroin, I think. It's hard to stop.
From a gaming design standpoint, that's where my head is at. You know, again, I will, but it ties a little bit into the curvature stuff. I like the flattened stationary Earth model, the one with this, you know, it's shaped sort of like a roulette table, because it's more elegant from a design standpoint. You know, it's more elegant. Does that mean that it's right? No, not necessarily. If Eric Dubé's model or Matt Boylan's model, if it turns out to be tabletop flat, hey, fantastic. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I will not cry in a corner. But as far as what you're talking about with the model standpoint, I tried to remain as neutral and open-minded as possible. Again, not what a shill does. The hubcap model, notice I didn't say roulette table, the hubcap model is not that much different from the tabletop flat model. And, you know, not different enough to where if there's something wrong with that model, all of a sudden you have to throw Flat Earth out the window. There's no way you're going to be able to do that. The moon, when it, you know, where I say, look, there's a 3D, you know, a 3D structure, you know, with the moon, something being overlaid on the top of it. If the difference between that and a 2D model, which Eric goes down, again, not much of a difference, which is why. He and I, you know, we still never had really a debate, because we're not debating over that many little, you know, that many points that make any difference.
I mean, if you're using the roulette table map, I mean, how does water curve?
Oh,
in
that case,
water always seems to be leveling out. You know.
Yeah, in that case, you would have to use mine, which is molecular, you know, some sort of molecular magnetism, absolutely, because then you'd have to control the water on all sides. Now, it may be ridiculous to use the words flat Earth. I completely agree, which is, you know, why I went with the enclosed world option. That is, look, if it's artificial, if this whole place was made, you know, designed, then gravity is a mechanical process, and that by that I mean, and I've said this in multiple interviews. And that is, from a design standpoint, it is a form of molecular magnetism, for lack of a better word. And that is, imagine a magnet that can grab anything. You know, instead of just metal, it can grab organics, you know, clay, wood, sand. It makes no difference. And that is because really, what's the difference between molecular magnetism and what you call density? You know, is it really the same thing? I don't know. You know, gravity, even for mainstream science, is a tricky thing. I like to think it's a mechanical process, because then it can be adjusted like anything else. I don't think there's anything left to chance in this system. I think everything is controlled at one point or another. If you want to call it divine, if you want to call it, you know, advanced technology, it's one thing. But again, if it turns out to be just flat old density and there's something else behind it, yeah, great. People can do experiments all they want with curvature and gravity, and I have no problem with that. Unfortunately, for me, they weren't broad enough strokes to go to the lowest common denominator. There's people out there that, again, if once you say, oh yeah, by the way, the curvature is 8 inches per mile squared, they're just going to glaze over. there's some people who are going to get it. Some people, you know, some smart people are going to get that. But
so at the first mile, is it 8 inches or is it 36 inches, or I can't remember what it was.
You know, I've heard a couple different things, so I don't know exactly. Also, people I've heard say you don't start till the second mile. So if you're looking at 5 miles distance, you would actually take that 8 times 4 times 4, or 8 times 5 times 5.
But it starts escalating pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a parabola, so it gets real steep real fast.
Got it.
And again, the tabletop flat model works better with water. I'll be the first one to admit that. It's not the one I would use just because, you know, I like the sunrise and sunsets, how they work on the roulette table a little better. You know, I know people, because water flows downhill naturally, and it flows, you want to go with that because, well, we see it in nature. It's like, yeah, but maybe you could artificially control that. I believe it can. So, but again, if I am proven wrong in the end, it still does not change the fact that the ball model, the globe model, seems to be an endangered species at this point. So yeah, if I'm a shill, I should not be able to say that, and I am saying that. So please stop calling me a shill, and I have to blame Eric. I'm not going to pick on you too much, Eric, but you're the one that started this.
Well, you know, I'll have to interject there. There are other reasons that people might suggest. I mean, people will say, well, sometimes a shill has to give good information and they have to accidentally wake people up, but at the same time they'll muddy the waters. For instance, if they give models that don't work, or if they give models that don't stand up to scrutiny, or if they throw in little things into their model that will turn people off instantly, such as if they start talking about the creators of the dome, or if they start talking about the moon, you know, their models for the moon not making sense. I mean, the idea is if some of the objections, Marker, is if your model doesn't stand up to proper scrutiny, then even though you're putting in some good info, maybe you're muddying the waters.
95% of the flights in the southern hemisphere are connections, and they're bad connections. They're freaking way out of it. So instead of these big arcing triangles, they become really, really shallow dog legs, and the chances of that happening statistically are very, very remote. But the other part of the second part of that, you know, there's second stage, part B of that one. That one is that, which is why I did Clue 9, which is how do you hide something like that? Because people are saying, no, there's these non-stops, and I cannot tell you how many times they sent me the Auckland, New Zealand to Santiago, Chile. Everybody sent me that, to the point where I had to make Clue 9 just to shut them up, which was, it's like, oh, no, you can get a non-stop. And I go, okay, fine. And then when I started looking, and then I saw the flights being dropped off of GPS in the southern hemisphere, then I saw it. I mean, I was already hooked by that point, but then I said, oh, that's so clever. Because what you're doing is you're hiding the routes, because that's the second part of this, and that is if you find a nonstop flight, you don't want to show them how that nonstop flight got from point A to point B, so you hide it. You disappear the flights. It doesn't happen in the northern hemisphere. GPS, an American military system called global positioning, should not lose flights anywhere. And it does. There's no coverage below the equator over the water. You may be able to book the flight. I know some people said, well, they're phantom flights and you may not be able to do it. And I know that there's one of my videos, or one of the people that I subscribe to, he did a thing called Airline Routes Exposed, where even the nonstop flights, some of those take these weird little stops, these fuel stops. And technically, if you do a fuel stop and nobody gets on or gets off, it still counts as a nonstop. But I don't even pay attention to that. For me, it still comes down to the routes. And that is, fine, you may be able to get from point A to point B. You may be able to get on a plane in Santiago, Chile, and land in Auckland, New Zealand, or Sydney, Australia. But you cannot prove the route. That's my big hang-up. And that is because once you get over the water, deliberately, the plane immediately goes into estimated mode or approximated mode. It drops off the screen, and at that point, you have no idea. The plane could be going through a freaking wormhole, and you'd never know it, because there's no way to prove it. There's no system in place. Even though it's supposed to be tracking it, it doesn't. Again, people have said, well, we should, get a fund. I think there's some fund me pages where, I don't know if you guys are one of the ones that are doing it. It's like, look, that you'll get on a plane, from Santiago to to Auckland, it's like, no, don't waste your money. Because you still, even if you're on that plane, you're not going to be able to prove how it goes there. Yeah, you may be able to take some snapshots out the window, but you're not going to know where you are. You know, an ocean's an ocean. And,
sure, but can't we do some basic mathematics? We can look at the maximum speed of the plane. We can look at the flight times. Then we can just do some basic elementary mathematics. If you've flown from Sydney to Santiago, Chile, just to take one example, and you've done it in 11 hours or whatever the time is, if you can just time the amount of time, yes, you don't know exactly what route you've taken, but if it's a 10 or 11 hours, whatever the case may be, then we can do some basic maths, and it simply wouldn't work on the flat Earth map. I mean, unless you're going to try and say that maybe the plane is traveling well above its maximum speed or something.
No, not at all. What I'm saying is that on a flat Earth map, the route that you would normally take, or you know, over that ocean, the South Pacific Ocean, which you're supposed to be taking, that part of the map becomes stretched and much longer. Basically, the map is so wrong that the only way you can make that flight is you have to take a shortcut, a huge shortcut across oceans that you're not supposed to, bodies of water you're not supposed to go through, and land that you're not supposed to go through. And that accounts for the time that you're talking about.
But you see what I mean? If we're on a ball, then I should be able to go sort of underneath the ball to get from Sydney to Santiago. If we're on a flat Earth map, I have to go right around. And even if it's a straight line, on the flat Earth model, like these southern hemisphere, just call it hemisphere, these southern hemisphere flights, the distance is simply much greater than it would be on a ball. So if we make it in the time that fits the ball, then it doesn't fit the flat Earth map, does it? Unless we're going much faster.
Unless you're going much faster, or unless the distances are wrong. The problem is that even the AE map, we don't know, because remember, I treat the AE map, and I think Jeranism does too, as a literal thing, but we don't know the actual perspective as far as the distances between segments on the AE map. We don't know the exact distances on a flat model because it's never been shown. We don't have a truly accurate map because we don't know the curvature. We don't know if there's any curves at all. So for me, yeah, there is some speculation there, but no, I'm still, there's no way I'm backing up.
That's not what the map was designed for. You'd have to find a map that's highlighting that specific relationship. Just like any proof, there's always a premise that people need to be educated on, and in this case, people were hoping to brainwash us on a premise that map wasn't even designed for.
The AE map is basically just a ball that was squished into a circle.
Maps, I think, are an issue. The maps that we currently have are incorrect. And
he went from, I'm working on the map, I hate everyone, and everyone's against me, and I'm going to attack the entire movement simultaneously. It's like.
And when I saw Tiger Dan attempting to put together the first real flat Earth map, I got real excited because I think everybody acknowledges that it's based on the ball. So I don't believe we have a map that's 100% accurate based solely on the flat Earth. So.
How are you going to create a proof based on something that map isn't even supposed to highlight that relationship?
Look, I used to produce games for a living. I helped design these things. So from a game standpoint, from a design standpoint, that is my perspective. Easy to digest.
I have spent a fair number of evenings crying myself to sleep going, God, what does this mean?
I don't ever want to talk to the guy. He's evil. He's horrible. Doors shut.
Is he spiritually attacked? Maybe somehow he let some other spirit into him that is affecting him. This is something else has gotten into him, and I will say for the first time ever publicly, I'm praying for the guy.